Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Indiana State Police Roadshow. I'm your host, Sergeant John Perrine, Public Information Officer for the Indiana State Police Indianapolis District. The Roadshow is brought to you by the Indiana State Police Alliance and Cops for Kids, a subsidiary of the State Police Alliance. For more information about our sponsor, you can visit them at www.indianasfinest.com. I want to thank our friend BK Brendan King for getting us on the radio waves and helping us so much with the show, along with our friends at MS Communications and Network Indiana. We thank them for their support, continued support. If you're seeing us on YouTube, it is because our good friend Tom Trial is back. We're so thankful for Tom, and we're so thankful to be back on YouTube so that you can follow along with the show and the future shows as well. A distinguished guest with us today, good friend and a regular guest, but always a great person to have around is Captain Ron Gallivis. Captain, thanks for coming.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. So
what we want to talk about today is it's not an easy topic to discuss, but it's something that the Indiana State Police has a resource for that we want people to know about, and that is called Unarmed Response to Active Shooter Events. These events occur across the country in the blink of an eye, and we see them. For the last 8 years, though, the Indiana State Police has developed a program where we go into schools, businesses, churches to offer options, discussion points, help with plans to how to deal with the potential of an active shooter.
Right. And it's hard to believe when you say it out loud. It's been 8 years already. But it had really pretty humble beginnings because when the program first started, it was in conjunction with then the Department of Education, Dr. Richard Hogue, and the state police. And really, I think members of our SWAT team actually were kind of the ones that kind of really helped get the ball rolling. But more as an agency, we were asked to go into schools at the time primarily. And, I got to believe, I don't know what the numbers are, but I bet we've hit 90%, 95% of the schools around the state in those 8 years. And at the time, we were the largest agency of our size doing this anywhere in the nation. And but again, you're talking about discussion points and having those uncomfortable talks. But the one thing that we were not doing was going in and dictating people's policy and saying, you have to do this, you have to do that, because none of these scenarios fit in neatly into a box. There's no if A then B, if B then C. They're dynamic and fluid. So the conversations that we've had the opportunity to have statewide have been really pretty incredible. And then they followed up with a video shortly thereafter on the Run, Hide, Fight model. So,
and it's again the reason we, as the Indiana State Police, developed this program is we saw that there was a gap in the response. Right, the police officers knew what they were going to do when they got there. The fire department, everybody was training for their part. But there's that 3 or 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, depending on what the response is, that the teachers or the people inside the building, not just schools, but anywhere, have to know what their options are. Right. Because we don't want the first time they ever think about their options to be when they're face-to-face with violence. And so having that little plan in your head is the key to surviving.
Absolutely, and it's mitigation. We're asking people to mitigate what's happening by taking advantage of one of the many options that are available. Kind of going back to when, like you said, when this was all created, part of the gap was that the paradigm that was pretty consistent nationwide was waiting for certain specialty groups to come into these, where now, our policy is, the first uniform, it doesn't even matter if it's first uniform, first police officer from the state police gets on scene, we're immediately entering that school, business, house of worship, what have you. So paradigms have shifted, thought processes have, but again, the education or the information that we provide may still remain the same, but yet there's some new caveats to it.
And every time there's an active shooter event in the state of Indiana, in the country, we study it. And we're not necessarily trying to pick it apart and find out what went wrong. Right. We want to know what went right. So we want to know what worked so that we can better prepare. And our program has evolved. It has changed. From the time we started it in 2013 to now, we've learned a lot of things from these events. And we want to share that information with folks. So tell people that are listening, if they'd like to have the Indiana State Police come to their facility or to their group, how can they do that?
It's really easy. The first way they can do it is visiting our website, in.gov/ISP, and we have an active shooter preparedness tab. And it will have actually information on the program, but it'll also have links to not only contacting your local post to schedule a presentation, but we'll also have the presentation on there itself so you can take a look whether you're looking at a school, a business, or a house of worship. If you happen to live near a state police post, feel free to visit them in person and get this set up, because it's, again, we're not touting to be the experts. We just want to, as you say, provide the most up-to-date information so that people can formulate their own plan, not only in where they work or worship or what have you, but in their personal life. Because an incident could happen where you may be a bystander. It may not even work in a place where something's occurring. And
one of the other things that we're proud of is this program is free. It doesn't cost a penny for anybody. It takes a couple of emails or phone calls or whatever, and an Indiana State Trooper will show up anywhere in the state of Indiana. There's no minimum group size. You don't have to try to get a group. If your company employs 5 people, we're willing to come. If your company employs 5,000 people, we're willing to come. We're very flexible. Because it's that important to us that we get this information out.
Absolutely. And so, again, feel free to reach out. If you have any questions, feel free to call your local state police post, and somebody will talk you through how the program works. When we show up in person to make a presentation, all we're asking is for maybe an hour or just shortly thereover. So we're not there all day,
right?
It's because we're respective of your time. But again, we appreciate the fact that you're willing to come and the participation.
Yep.
There's not much to it. Generally, it's just a short question and answer.
Yep, that's right. And so the program kind of breaks down into a few different pieces. The biggest piece, the one that we focus the most on, is prevention. How do we keep this from happening? Because that's our goal, right? We don't only want to learn how to respond to it or what your options are, because that's an important piece. But what can people do? And we talk about simple things like see something, say something.
Right.
We know you hear that over and over, but it works. We talk about locked doors, control access, all these little things that you can do that will substantially increase your safety. Right.
And, again, those are always increasing. We're starting to see more and more as maybe new schools or new businesses are being built. They're being built and designed with the safety features in mind, because a lot of places that we go to may not have a plan, or they may be constructed in a certain way that it's very difficult to completely lock down or completely prevent, if you will. So again, the things that we're really pushing are thoughts and ideas for you to have internally.
Yeah.
Because as an employee, you may have a thought that maybe your upper echelon has never thought about before. So really, too, going back to the schools, it was an opportunity for maybe the teaching staff and the administration to come together at a table and sit down and listen to ideas and thoughts as they move their own safety programs forward. So big chunk of this is communication and what are your thoughts, and how do the powers to be take those and implement those.
And if you're an administrator, supervisor, manager, whatever it may be, I would offer you to give every employee a seat at that table, because they're going to bring ideas, bring concepts, bring concerns that some people may not have thought of. And that is how you're going to come up with the best possible safety plan.
Right. And so we've also done scenarios too. Now, granted, scenario may not necessarily be germane for every presentation that we do, but some of the experiences that I've had with some very large corporations, we've actually been invited to tabletop exercises. It's an easy way that you don't have to shut the entire facility down, but yet you have the stakeholders within your company coming together, go over your plan, and allow law enforcement, fire, emergency services just to kind of be a fly on the wall and listen and look, and just maybe, because we've been asked opinions, and we'll give our opinion, but it's not set in stone. Again, we're not dictating policy.
Yeah, we're not walking in and handing you a pamphlet that says, here's your safety plan.
Absolutely
we're helping you build that.
But it's impressive when you see some of the big plans that these facilities have. And, we're honored just to be invited to say, hey, what do you think about this? And if you all had to come in, how would you do it?
Yeah.
And so everybody learns. It's a learning situation for everybody.
One of the things that you and I both really like to harp on when we teach these classes, and I always I'll let you explain it because I like to hear the way you explain it, is empowering everyone to sound the alarm.
Yeah. So, and again, kind of going back to the education field, we would ask at times, who has authority to sound the alarm in the event an event happened? And what we found, again, this was many years ago, there were only very few people in the administration that had that authority.
Or even the perceived authority, maybe not real, but the people in
Correct.
school thought that was
That's
true.
right. And so, if you're coming to the office with something and something happens, I think that we're at a point now where we should be able to trust those that we're entrusting our children with to make a decision for their safety and well-being. And so I think some of those thought processes have changed over time. And so I think we're finding that a little bit more and more of the presentations that we've been asking, who has that authority? We're starting to see more hands. People say, no, yeah, I've got this thing around my neck. I can push the button and, call out what I see. But we tell them, and we've explained, if the cavalry comes and we find that it was nothing, then so be it.
One of the hardest things about safety plans and safety in the buildings, whether it be a school or an office or a church or whatever, is getting people to buy into those changes, those ideas, that thought process, because, it's not convenient, right? There can be no safety without sacrifice, but it's always important that everybody buys in. For instance, if you have a protocol in place for visitors to visit and they have to sign in, they have to get a sticker, whatever it may be, that means every single visitor that comes through that building has to go through that same protocol. Because if you skip that protocol, then it makes it time and money wasted for anybody, and it puts everybody at vulnerable.
That's exactly right. And part of that buy-in too is training and practicing, because you can have the greatest plan on paper, but if you don't actually practice it and train for it, and again, it doesn't have to be a complete shutdown, but at some point, everybody has to be aware of what their role is in that safety plan. So,
yeah, and we both have kids at school. We know that, hey, all I need to do is drop off the lunchbox. Why do I have to show my license and get this? But, that's the protocol. You should smile and you should thank the folks that are doing that for doing their job.
And how many times have you and I gone to these schools and these businesses to do these presentations? And the same thing, sir, we need to see your ID. They take a photo of us, one school.
And we're in uniform.
And we're in uniform. So we put the visitor tag on. I
love it.
I do too. And so that means that they're following their protocols.
I appreciate that. So the principles, the response options that we talk about, and we'll break down these really quickly, is escape, lockdown, or fight. It can be also categorized run, hide, fight, kind of an evolution of that. However you need to remember it, the principles are the same. But break down, we have about 2.5 minutes, but break down real quickly the escape, lockdown, fight model.
So really the escape model is the preferred, because but again, having a plan. So, just in a nutshell, we don't want you escaping blindly and without forethought. So while you're going about your day to day, even if you go to the grocery store, what if the store caught on fire? Are you taking a look to see where the nearest exit is? Those kind of things. So how do you plan your escape? The second one's lockdown. If you're somewhere and you have to lock down where you're at, do you know how you're going to do that? With what manner? How does the door open and close? Things of that nature. And then the last one is fighting. If you cannot escape and you cannot, and it's difficult to lock down, or your lockdown is breached, it may come to a point where you have to defend yourself. Now, the one thing that we do tell people is we're not asking anybody to give up their life for anything. Quite the opposite. We want you to live to help us mitigate the time so that we can adequately and quickly respond. In a metropolitan area, you're going to have a huge response very quickly. It's in those rural areas that this mitigation is significantly important as well. So,
and part of our program also is discussing what that police response is going to look like, and we do try to cater that based on the geographic location.
Right.
We know here in Central Indiana, within minutes you're going to have a lot of emergency personnel, but there's some rural counties that it may take 10 minutes for the first emergency responder to get there. So having a plan for that is key.
And we'll talk a little bit too about maybe give an example of one or two of these, high profile incidents that only took 2, 3, 4 minutes. But when that thing is happening, it probably seems like 2, 3, 4 hours are going by. So imagine a 3-minute police response and a 10-minute response.
And again, having a plan can be difficult.
Yes.
It can be overwhelming, but little pieces at a time. There's no such thing as a perfect plan.
That's right.
Talk to other agencies similar to yours about their plans, about their experiences, and just have the conversations.
Absolutely. Again, there's no reason to recreate the wheel. If somebody else, again, a similar size or makeup as yours, your plan should be fluid and easily changed and what have you. And it should be changed because the dynamics therein are always changing.
So for more information about the program or to schedule a trooper to come give your facility the presentation, go to www.in.gov/ISP. Look for the tab that says Active Shooter Preparedness. you not only can you schedule, you can see our PowerPoints, you can see our videos, you can see our notes, all the resources that we have, we've put publicly on our website.
Absolutely, yes.
So thanks to our guest, Captain Ron Galvez. You've been talking about Indiana State Police unarmed response to active shooter. We will talk to you next time.